Is this the once and future end-all say-all definitive Atari console experience? Well, I cut my teeth on Atari consoles and I feel like I'm qualified to make this analysis. Let's get into it right now. The Atari GameStation Pro from our friends at MyArcade. You know, I'm far from the first person to make a video about this thing, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time on an unboxing, but we are going to get a look at the contents of this thing as we unpack and get started here, so let's get to it. And I want to thank our friends at MyArcade for giving me the opportunity to review this unit right here on the show. Now, we discussed the GameStation Pro on the Modern Core Gamer podcast, this time last year, as a matter of fact, during CES, and I was massively intrigued because on the surface, you gotta admit this thing is a looker. And while looks aren't everything, there's lots to be said about a first impression. I mean, we eat first with our eyes, right? You know, the first thing I wanted to check is the weight of this little unit, and it's got some heft to it. I mean, that's what I'm looking for, to see if this unit is as quality an item as it appears on the surface. You get two wireless controllers, which I love, but I was concerned about the joystick stiffness, because other products we've seen have joysticks that are so loose it loses the authentic feel of the controls that VCS veterans are used to. These sticks simply don't have the unnecessary play in them, so they do have that tight feel I prefer. I'm gonna get along with these just fine. You have to supply the power brick though, and it recommends you use a 5-volt 2-amp, which isn't as common as the 5-volt 1-amp, so I wish they just included one, but I do have one here off another mini console. It's important to note there's a micro SD slot here, so you already know we're going to be adding additional games to this thing. Let's plug this thing up and take a tour. So to start out, this thing is showing up prepared. I mean, the wireless controller is already synced to the console, so it's literally plug and play. No complaints on this interface. I mean, everything is conveniently laid out by system. You have selectable aspect ratios in the settings. You've got scan line options, you know, if you're into that. All the comforts we've become accustomed to with, you know, the finer mini consoles coming out these days. And of course, where supported, you get save states, expandable with use of the micro SD card. The 2600 game offerings are the standard fare, pretty much the games we've seen on other plug and plays, but the bases are certainly covered with hits like Centipede, Asteroids, Gravatar. I mean, there actually are a few titles here, you know, some unreleased that I don't recall seeing on flashbacks or other collections thus far, so that's new. But what this console is bringing to the table that other consoles we reviewed in the past are not, is the 5200 and 7800 emulation, which if we're talking a true, definitive Atari experience, that's 100% necessary. I will say you don't get a very big selection of 5200 and 7800 games on this thing right out of the box. That likely has a lot to do with licensing availability, but we know we're going to add full libraries to this thing, and that's where this is going to get juicy. You do get the 7800 version of Dark Chambers, which is not to be missed. It's very similar to Gauntlet, for good reasons, but yeah, that's cool to see on here, factory. You get these cool info cards after selecting the game with release date, a brief synopsis, and the controls listed out. What really sets this unit apart though is the controller. I really think they nailed it here because not only do you get a joystick with both a quality and authentic feel, a must for precision on VCS titles such as Asteroids and Centipede, but you've got a dial on this thing, a spinner for the paddle games, and it feels good too, like that weighted feel, that little bit of resistance on the twist that keeps the control from being overly sensitive. To have the joystick and spinner on the controller together is fantastic, going seamlessly into a fave classic like Breakout without changing controllers. That's what's up. Along with the ability to load entire libraries of these systems onto this console comes the introduction of new controllers for the GameStation line at this year's CES. If we're getting a D-pad, a number pad, and a trackball, then we're really going to take this experience to new dimensions, not to mention what it makes possible for emulating and effectively controlling games from other consoles. And speaking of other games, we already have a decent offering of arcade versions on here that's not to be missed, including but not limited to Crystal Castles, fantastic, Major Havoc, because why not, and Super Breakout, real arcade versions here, but What's all this about bonus games down here? Well, lo and behold, we have a delightful sampling of 8-bit and 16-bit goodness from other publishers. Ones that we've seen on other products and collections since they've been made available, like games from Pico Interactive, such as The Immortal, one of my all-time EA classic faves, as delightfully brutal as it is mysterious and cruel, and Sword of Sodan of Sega Genesis fame, serving up its own helping of bloody hack-and-slash fun. Taxan's 8 Eyes is here, an NES classic, definitely one to experience if you haven't already, and if you like games with Vania DNA. Dash Galaxy's even making an appearance, a game that's so bad, it's, well, bad, but it's another NES game I have a lot of history with, so it's just interesting to see it make the cut here. Now, in 16-bit action, we talked about The Immortal, which is cool, but here's Top Gear 2. I mean, the Top Gear series is one of my all-time favorite racing series, with innovative combinations of tight gameplay and vehicle customization. And there's a handful of others on this tab, but moving into the arcade bonus section, I gotta say, I don't recognize any of this. I'm playing something here called Mighty Warriors, which is an obvious Street Fighter II clone, and Galaxy Gunners, a shoot-'em-up I've also never seen or heard of. I mean, kind of fun, I guess. But again, these extras really make you wonder what all this unit can actually emulate, and we're going to find out. Another thing this console gets right is its price point. This unit here offers handsome hardware, expanded emulation capability, and is available right now for as low as $79.99. I think that's very realistic, especially given the cost of things these days. I'll include a link in the description of this video to where you can get one of these units at that price. It's going to be a fun journey with this thing, I think, and it's looking like it's going to evolve into something that's going to get a lot of use in my game room. So there you have it, the Atari GameStation Pro from MyArcade, and I gotta tell you, in my mind, in my hands, what I see, what I feel, this thing is a Cadillac. I really like what we saw here today. I mean, it does some really cool stuff, and it does it with style and grace. It does it at an attractive price point, which is probably the single most important thing it could do at this point with competing things on the market. This is just really a step up and beyond, right? Because it's got so much going for it. We know we can add ROMs to it, something that, you know, I love to do on these devices, and we will be taking a look in a future episode at how to do just that, popping that SD card in there, getting more games added to this thing, and expanding it to its full potential. A lot of potential there. It feels good. It's doing what it's supposed to. I want to know what you think about this review. Have you played one of these? Are you thinking about getting one of these? Have you already gotten one of these things? Let me know in the comments section, because you know that I love getting a conversation going with you right here on the Emceemur Show, something that we do a lot of, and I want to thank MyArcade once again for giving me an opportunity to take a look at this unit right here on the show. You know, sky's the limit, and if you want to jump into some more action right now, I'm going to put a link right here to some more hot plug-and-play action, so you can keep the action going right now. Emceemur signing off for this fantabulous review. I will see each and every one of you again next time.